What's up, everyone? Today is May 24th, 2024, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the passing of former trained bass guitarist Charlie Colin at the age of 57. However, most media outlets are reporting that Charlie Colin was actually 58 years old. Now, while we're unsure the exact date he died, there's no other source showing a birthday other than November 22nd of 66. So this means he was actually 57 years old, despite all of these various news outlets reporting the number 58. So in this video, we'll talk about the numerology of Colin's death and how it connects to some recent past decodes that I've done. Now, my last video from yesterday on this channel talked about how there was an ongoing riddle with the musician Prince. And Charlie Colin dying at 57, well, this is the same age that Prince died. Of course, Prince, another guitarist. So I'm going to show you the numerical connections that exist with Prince. But what's really interesting is that this death was reported on May 22nd, and it was believed that Charlie Colin may have passed away on May 17th, most likely. And the reason this is because in this article, Charlie's mother says it was about 5 days ago that they found him. So 5 days before May 22nd was May 17th. May 17th was the birthday of actor and comedian Bob Saget. And in the second part of this video, you're going to see the strong numerical connections of this story to both Bob Saget and Frank Wycheck. Now, why is this relevant? Well, both of these men, Saget and Wycheck, also passed away in similar slip and fall incidents. Saget reportedly slipped in his hotel room and died in his sleep after hitting his head, whereas Frank Wycheck slipped and fell at his Nashville home. The video yesterday focuses on Prince's connection to the Tower riddle, the Tower, the 16th card of the Tarot's major arcana. And indeed, we'll start off by looking at some of that. If you're new here, we talk about the language of Gematria as the most significant component of numerology. The most basic cipher starts with the alphabetic order, but then branches off into what we call the base 4, where the alphabetic order is either reversed or reduced down to a single digit. We also have the very relevant extended methods of Gematria, which produce much larger numbers, however, leave less room for coincidence. So let's dive in and talk about why the number 58 is being reported, even though Charlie was 57. It's said that this death occurred while he was house-sitting in Brussels, Belgium. Notice how house-sitting has a reduction value of 58. And as I explored in my Tower decodes recently, many of which you can find linked down below in the description, this riddle centers around the Jewish holidays Tisha B'Av, which commemorates the destruction of the two temples, and the 9/11 attacks in the United States, where the two towers were destroyed. In Gematria, Solomon's Temple, Second Temple, Herod's Temple, Third Temple, Jerusalem, and Twin Towers all have numeric values of 58 in Pythagorean Gematria. Of course, the date that the Twin Towers were destroyed in the United States was September 11th. Now, the name of the month, September, actually points back to the 7th month of the year on the ancient Roman calendar, as the prefix sep points to the number 7. So September 11th used to be 7/11 on the calendar. And on May 17th, the date that he most likely died, Charlie Colin was exactly 711 lunar phases old. a lunar phase, of course, simply measures the amount of time from new moon to new moon, a little over 29.5 days. In standard Gematria, train bassist Charlie Colin, which is how he's referred to in most of these news reports, notice how this sums to an upside down 911. We get the 116. Colin was killed in Belgium, and if you've seen my recent videos, you'll see how Formula One is synced up with all of this. And this isn't a huge part of the riddle, but Charlie Colin at one point lived in Singapore to write songs, play jingles, and whatnot. Well, 2 videos ago, I talked about the death of a man on a Singapore Airlines flight and how that's connected to the Singapore Grand Prix in September. Well, the track in Belgium that they race at is called Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which sums to 119 and an upside-down 911. Also consider how Charlie slipped and fell in the shower. Well, a lot of people go to a spa to freshen up. And this just stood out because, again, the track is called Spa over there in Belgium. Train bassist Charlie Colin also has matching 1560 Gematria with Prince Rogers Nelson. And of course, the 156th prime number is 911. So let's look at how these all sync up. The name Prince sums to 197 in Latin Gematria. Charlie Colin's November 22nd birthday falls 197 days before June 7th, which is Prince's birthday. Also consider the date that Charlie Colin was born, November 22nd of 66. This date is written 2211 in most parts of the world, and 2211 is the 66th triangular number. But more noteworthy is that November 22nd is the same date that President John F. Kennedy was killed. And those who have been following my work know that I've been talking a lot about the Kennedys, all starting with the Iranian president dying on the same date that Jackie Kennedy died. Colin died a span of 1,097 days after the president was assassinated, syncing up with the same numbers that connect him to Prince. It was JFK whose vision got us to the moon, if you believe it. And notice how moon has this satanic gematria of 197 as well. Well, Charlie Colin died exactly 100 lunar phases after Prince Rogers Nelson, whose name sums to 100 in reduction. In the reverse order, bassist equals 100. Charlie Colin, the bassist for the band Train. Now, speaking of the moon, every new moon is numbered since January of 1923. This is called the Brown lunation number. JFK was born during Brown lunation -69. And the number 69 is found in the symbol for Cancer, which is the only astrological sign ruled by the moon. Charlie Colin died in Brussels, Belgium. Brussels equals 690 in Sumerian, while Belgium equals 69. News of Charlie's death broke on May 22nd, when he would have been exactly 690 months old. Now, I've pointed out the gematria of the tower in yesterday's video, and the tower equals 1248 in Latin gematria, or Agrippa's key. If you measure from the date 1248 to the date that Charlie Colin was born, it's a span of 6,900 days. JFK was born exactly 69 years after the state of Wisconsin was admitted to the Union. Wisconsin borders the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis, where Prince was born. In fact, Wisconsin was founded in the year 1848, which reflects the same digits in Charlie Colin's age when Prince died in 2016. He was 18,048 days old. Minneapolis is home to the 612 area code. Remember, Prince died of a fentanyl overdose. Fentanyl equals 612, just like the tower in reverse Sumerian. And now we have the death of the train bassist, which also equals 612. Now, it's interesting, too, that Charlie Colin was born on November 22nd, which happens to be the first or second day of Sagittarius on the zodiac. And Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter. Charlie Colin's band Train was probably best known for their song called Drops of Jupiter, which was released in January of 2001, the same year as the 9/11 attacks. The album that went by the same name was released a couple of months later, and we'll look at both of these dates. Last year, we had a very significant train derailment in Ohio that seemed to be synced up with Charlie Colin's birthday, but what I thought was interesting is that his death fell exactly 1 year and 15 weeks after that East Palestine train derailment. The number 115 is found in multiple ciphers when you type out the word killing. Charlie died in Brussels, which equals 115 and 101. Well, notice how Charlie Colin was born 101 months and 15 days after Prince. In July, later this year, Formula One goes racing in Belgium, where Charlie died. And notice how this Grand Prix will be the 1115th Grand Prix in the history of Formula One. In my video on the turbulence disaster that features Ayrton Senna, you'll see me mention this a couple of times, as it's the 1109th Grand Prix that's getting underway this weekend, and then the one in Singapore is the 1119th. So a lot of connections to 9/11 there. And this 1115 we know is important because Fox News apparently coded this number into their headline. Check out the reverse order, 1115. Charlie Colin died 421 weeks after Prince, who died on the date 4/21. This is also 97 months. Death, Prince, and fentanyl, all summing to 97. Prince has this gematria of 390 in Sumerian. The number 39 is found in the values of the tower and the number 16, as the tower is the 16th trump card of the tarot. Charlie Colin's birthday leaves 39 days in the year. And notice how he died 39 days after the eclipse over the US. The word eclipse equals 39. So does Belgium, where he died. Charlie was born 3,090 days after Prince. And notice how he would have been 3,009 weeks old for the Grand Prix in Belgium, where he died. In both of those same measurements, we find the number 168. Born 168 days after Prince's birthday, and he would have been 21,068 days old for the race. The tower equals 1,068. a number connected to Prince that I mentioned yesterday. He has this in his birth numerology, and then he died in Chanhassen. Meanwhile, the Drops of Jupiter album came out on March 27th, which was 168 days before the destruction of the World Trade Center, the completion of the Tower Riddle. So we see the same numbers over and over. Again, the 168. But there's even more with the 168. The lead singer of Train, Pat Monahan, born on February 28th of 1969, which means on the date that Charlie Colin died, he would have been 168 days old. So next up, I want to talk about how this syncs up to Bob Saget. As once again, Bob Saget was born on May 17th, the same date that it's believed Charlie Colin passed away. May 17th, 5 days before the story was published, as TMZ so conveniently lets us know. So this means that Charlie Colin died on Bob Saget's 68th birthday. Well, 68 was the primary number of focus in my video on Prince from yesterday. Both Solomon's Temple and Herod's Temple, the two destroyed, commemorated for Tisha B'Av, both of those have Gematria of 68. And Charlie was house-sitting at the time, which equals 68. News of his death broke a span of 68 days before the Belgian Grand Prix. Of course, this number connected to the World Trade Center, where construction began on 6/8 of 68. Now, the World Trade Center was, of course, destroyed on September 11th, or 9/11. 9/11 is written as 11/9 in most parts of the world. Notice how Bob Saget died a span of 1 month and 19 days after Charlie's birthday. In fact, the two men were born a span of 10 years and 190 days apart. This is also 10 years, 6 months, and 6 days. Another number I talked about yesterday, as both the Tower and Twin Towers each sum to 166. Remember how the finals begins 8 years and 46 days after Prince died? The 9/11 attacks began at 8:46 a.m. Bob Saget's full name, Robert Lane Saget, also has this 846. Train bassist Charlie Colin yields 860 in the Latin cipher, and Colin died a span of 860 days after Bob Saget. 86, like human sacrifice or blood sacrifice. This is also the gematria of the number 19. 19, very associated with the kill code, as we see exhibited in Hebrew and Latin. Well, the number 19 is important because Bob Saget died on the date 1/9, like the number 19. The name Bob equals just 19 in the alphabetic order. And also in that same ordinal cipher, Charlie Colin equals 109. In fact, the bassist died 109 days after the anniversary of their most famous single, Drops of Jupiter. Prince Rogers Nelson in the alphabetic order sums to 226, which I didn't notice until yesterday, but the Tower also has this 226. And of course, the World Trade Center was bombed on 2/26, February 26th. The single Drops of Jupiter came out 226 days before the destruction of the Twin Towers. Charlie Colin died 22 weeks and 6 days after Frank Wycheck, the famous Titans tight end, who died suddenly after slipping and falling in December of last year. Frank Wycheck has a lot of connections to the Tower Code. Notice how he was born on 10/14, which was a date with primary numerology of 114. The tower equals 114 ordinal, but the tower 16 with the Roman numerals sums to 1014 in Sumerian. Sumerian Gematria, for the record, simply multiplies the alphabetic order by 6, the number most closely associated with time. Now, the tower is the 16th card, and Charlie Colin died a span of 160 days after Frank Wycheck. Slip and fall sums to 106 in the alphabetic order. 106, like what would be JFK's current age. He would still be 106 years old until next week. Charlie even died in Brussels, which sums to the 106th prime number. For the last part of this video, though, I want to talk about 1248. I pointed this out earlier, as the tower equals 1248 in Latin Gematria. Charlie was born exactly 8 years and 24 weeks after Prince, which has the same digits, but look at his age for the release of Drops of Jupiter. The Sagittarius was a span of 12,488 days old when that song came out. The same digits found in The Tower. His name, Charlie Colin, also sums to 248 in the same cipher. This connects him to Frank Wycheck, which equals 248. Frank Wycheck died in Nashville, Tennessee, which equals 1248. And his death was exactly 1,248 weeks after the Music City Miracle, which was the play that he was best known for, a miraculous play that helped the Tennessee Titans win a playoff game. In fact, when Frank Wycheck died, it happened during Brown lunation number 1248. You just can't make this stuff up. So finally, let's look at how well these dates all sync up with one another. Bob Saget, born on the 17th of May, like 17/5, the same date that was listed for Charlie Colin. In the alphabetic order, Frank's full name, Frank John Wycheck, equals 175. He was a tight end, which equals 129. And the tight end died on the date 12/9. This brings us to Charlie Colin, whose name sums to 1290 in reverse Sumerian. The song Drops of Jupiter came out on January 29th, 129, which was a span of 129 days before Prince's birthday. And with capital letters, the name Prince equals 129. This number was also discussed with Bob Saget, who passed away a span of 129 days before his birthday. So once again, everything syncs up a little bit too well. And this always happens when you see this, the incorrect age reported in the headline. You know, every single news outlet flew with the 58. Even though there's no indication that was his actual age. A perfect example of this kind of thing done by the numbers was Chadwick Boseman. I'll try to remember to leave a link to this video in the description as well, as Boseman's age was 42 until he died, and then they changed it to 43. And there's a lot of other examples of media changing ages, but I think those are some of the best. So with that, that'll do it for this video. As always, check the links in the description if you want to learn more. But for now, peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to y'all next time. See ya!